Tell you, there is some chirping going on, boy. Pat Bev and Damian Lillard are chirping.
Fleeing into
And
the night.
they're walking like zombies, too, because they're stunned. They had themselves a big-time lead at intermission.
Much later.
Mo Bamba, Patrick Beverley, thank you for joining us. Welcome to Philadelphia.
Gets it back, missed it again. Another chance. Lillard for three. Down it goes. Lillard gets a step. Lillard, and it goes. Damian Lillard. Three-pointer flies. And he's got another one. Damian Lillard doing what he does.
Arguably the biggest trash talker and biggest pass we have in the NBA today is Patrick Beverley, as Bev quite literally will go at anyone from Kevin Durant to DeMar DeRozan. And on one hand, you gotta give Pat Bev a lot of credit. A guy who scrapped his way into the NBA all these years later is still fighting and clawing for even the smallest victories. And one of Bev's longtime rivals is of course Damian Lillard, as even back in his Houston days, he was a pest to Dame and a major annoyance. And of course, back in 2020 with the Clippers, you have the infamous moment where Beverley was mocking Dame's celebration on the bench. The Bev vs. Dame rivalry, it is pretty well documented, as even last year with the Lakers, Pat Bev basically did the same thing he did in 2020, as in the fourth quarter yet again, was mocking Dame's celebration and his watch being broken. And on that night LA, they beat Dame's team, got the best of him, and Lillard was not his normal self, going 5 of 17 from the field, 3 of 13 from 3, and only having a total of 24 points. That night, Pat Bev got the best of Dame Lillard. And many forget, in the aftermath of that matchup, Dame Lillard actually called Pat Beverley a con man. Now, fast forward in 2023, both Bev and Dame are on new teams and in new cities. Bev in Philly, and of course Dame in Milwaukee. Now for Game 1 of the year, I was anticipating Bev vs. Dame be an incredible matchup. In this game, Pat Bev, unlike past times, didn't have the last laugh, as Dame in his first game with the Bucks came out guns blazing, as in the first half had 21 points on 50% shooting, and the fourth quarter went completely bonkers, having 14 points with Pat Bev on the bench looking helplessly on. And if you watch this game down the stretch, this was an all-time vintage Dame Lillard performance, as Milwaukee for really the entire game going into the fourth quarter was in control by double digits. But for some odd reason in the fourth quarter to start out, they were self-destructing and found themselves down 104 to 102. From that point on, being down by 2 points, in the final 4 minutes Dame Lillard had 14 points, including the final 11. That included an and-one layup, a dagger 3, and numerous big-time shots. This game versus Philly right here is the sole reason the Bucks wanted Dame so badly, as there's very few guards in the NBA who can take over a game, a quarter, and a clutch time moment like Dame Lillard. You have guys like Kyrie Irving, Luka Doncic, Steph Curry. Those guys in that same tier of guards who take over in the fourth quarter. And look, no shade to Drew Holiday or Chris Middleton, because back in 2021, they were a vital piece of the Bucks winning the championship. But those guys in the fourth quarter, the big time moments, aren't half the player Dame is at this point in his career. And it was pretty shocking to see someone like Giannis, who I consider at worst a top 3 player in the NBA, kind of just get pushed aside and watch the Dame show. And the way these two guys interacted, kind of dueling banjos in this game, I expected that by about game 20, game 30, when they finally got some chemistry. But to see this in game 1 is a very encouraging sign. And of course, Giannis from night to night, he won't be as bad as he was versus Philly, because in this game, for Giannis standards, he really was bad. Taking too many jump shots, being out of control and foul trouble, and really not playing up to Giannis standards. But luckily for him, he had Dame Lillard to bail him out numerous times. And on the flip side, you had Joel Embiid, who was the worst out of all the All-Stars. As in this game, Joel had a vintage playoff Joel game with 24 points, 7 turnovers, 5 fouls on 42% shooting. And look, I have some sympathy for Joel right now because James Harden essentially is trying to tank Philly, kill their season, and really ruin a prime year of Embiid. But looking at the rest of Philly's team, if James Harden is still out for an extended period, I expect Tyrese Maxey to have one of the best improvements out of anyone in the NBA. As last night, kind of similar to Dame, he was taking over in the fourth quarter. And looking back at the Bucks, really my only big question with this team is their overall coaching and health. As looking at some of the rotations they had, they were a little bit odd. Of course, it is game 1, might be trying out new things, throwing things at the wall, but it was kind of weird to see Chris Middleton, Dame, and Giannis all on the bench at the same time. Especially considering the Bucks and their role players, they aren't really shot creators or guys who can get their own shot, like Jay Crowder, Malik Beasley, Pat Connaughton, or Lopez. All great players, but in terms of running the offense, I think Dame, Giannis, or Chris has to be on the court at all times. And comparing the Bucks' debut versus Boston's debut, I think it goes to show both these teams are the 2 best teams in the Eastern Conference. I would say the Bucks being 1A, given Dame's fourth quarter ability, and Boston being 1B, considering their depth and overall offensive versatility. Past that, I would say 3 and 4, kind of that tier 2. You have Knicks and the Heat, and then Philly, depending on James Harden. And looking back at Dame Lillard, of course, his first game in a Bucks uniform after 11 years in Portland. Couldn't have asked for a better debut. And legacy-wise, Dame this year, he does have a lot of pressure. As of course in Portland, there really was no pressure, no urge to win championships every single year. This Bucks team, unlike Portland, is a championship contender, and some would argue the favorite to win it all. And I expect Dame, like many times before, to rise to the occasion and show up in the big time moments. So that right there is the end of the video. Once again, Dame Lillard getting his get back on Pat Bev, going off in the fourth quarter with numerous big time shots. As always, thank you guys for watching, hope you enjoyed it. I'll see you next time.